Should the city of Santa Fe buy the College of Santa Fe? And if the answer is yes, where will the money come from? That's the question being asked and answered by the City Council. They're meeting to talk about a bond issue that could come up with the $30 million or so needed to retire the heavy debt load that forced the private college to close its doors in May. The hope is to have it reopen as an academic institution. Mayor David Koss says that would be good for the city in terms of revenues and jobs. Some state lawmakers say a four-year college would be good for citizens of the state as a whole, but so far, those lawmakers have not come up with a viable plan to put the college in a place where it might be able to reopen. That leaves the ball pretty much in the court of City Hall. This whole issue of floating bonds to buy the campus is pretty complex. I put the question to the city's finance director, David Milliken. How would this process work?
Well, basically, the city would authorize revenue bonds in an amount that could be repaid from lease payments made by Laureate Corporation and possibly proceeds of sale of land to the state. The bonds are backed by a pledge of the city's gross receipts taxes, but the transaction that we are trying to construct would never require the city to actually commit its own money to the project.
But it would be committed if an organization such as this private Laureate system of universities failed to pay, wouldn't
it?
Right.
If the Laureate International Education, Inc. failed to pay, then the city would have to be responsible for debt service until it could figure out whether to sell or lease the land to another user.
How close are you in talking with Laureate about their interest?
We've been in negotiations with Laureate for several weeks now. We have moved into a very detailed discussion about how lease terms would work and are working through various issues that have come up. But we're not finished with the lease at this point.
What will be the action then at City Council? Is that to publish a notice of meeting, a notice of hearing on the question?
This is they're actually being asked to approve publication of two ordinances that would start the calendar clicking for issuance of debt if the transaction goes forward. And the reason we're doing that, even though parts of the transaction are not completed, is that we want to have the transaction completed before the next semester begins. So they would start the calendar, and then during the month of July would receive information and have time to review that in order to make a decision by their July 29th meeting about whether they do or do not want to issue debt in order to go ahead with the transaction.
When a bond like this is issued, someone has to come up with the money to pay off the debt. That would be a bank, would it? How would that operate?
The money provided would actually be provided in one of two ways. Either the city would directly issue bonds that would be purchased by investors, or the New Mexico Finance Authority would issue bonds that would then be loaned to the city, and that loan would be secured by our pledge of gross receipts tax and the project revenues.
So it is a loan of some kind to provide that initial spurt of money to pay off the debt.
To pay off the existing debt, yes. Yeah, it's either going to be we call them bonds, but you're right. That's basically money advanced by investors in anticipation of being paid back with interest.
You're now negotiating with the debt holder, the largest debt holders, and how much is the total debt load you're looking at?
There are basically two major. Well, there are several sources of debt on the campus right now. Royal Bank of Canada Capital Markets holds $25 million worth of debt that was issued in 2006 in order to do capital improvements to the campus. In addition, the Royal Bank of Canada itself, as opposed to its subsidiary RBC Capital Markets, has a interest rate swap, which was a device to allow the College of Santa Fe to reduce its debt cost. Laureate Corporation has about $2.5 million of debt secured by parts of the campus, and First Community Bank has debt that is secured by the Schelleberger Tennis Center on the campus. So there are 4 different debt holders. We're negotiating with the bondholders, the interest rate swap holder, and the bond insurer, who will have to pay off the debt if the college goes into full default.
And sounds like there's more than $30 million worth of debt, or about $30 million, that you are looking at?
We're looking at about, $33 million, I'd say, with the laureate debt included in part of our negotiation. The debt we are unable to address is the debt secured by the tennis center.
If City Council approves the issuance of the bonds, can the campus be operating by the fall?
That is the intention. Is to open the semester of a 4-year college with an arts program in the fall. So we think that's possible, but Laureate is working very hard on accreditation and on securing approval for federal student lending. All of those things have to come together in order to be sure that we can open in the fall.
Santa Fe City Finance Director David Milliken.